Hello and welcome to the Flenox YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to be continuing our solution of the JAMB Mathematics Past Question for 2023. In part 5, we're going to be looking at the next 10 questions. So if you've not watched part 1 to 4, I encourage you to do so as we've explored 40 questions relating to 2023. I've included the link to those videos in the description, so make sure to check that out. As I solve through these questions, if you have any question, please drop them in the comment and I'll do well to respond to them as soon as I can. And I've also included tutorial links to related topics that I'll be exploring today. And finally, do not forget to subscribe to this channel and give this video a big thumbs up if you find it useful. So without further ado, let's get started. So question 41 says that a man sells different brands of an item. So 1/9 of the items he sells in the shop are from brand A, 5/8 of the remainder are from brand B, and the rest are from brand C. If the total number of brand C items in the man's shop is 81, how many more brand B items than brand C does the shop has? So when solving a question like this, the first thing you want to do is to try to see how you can interpret this using some unknown. So the first thing I would like us to do is to say, let total items in the man's shop, let the total number of items be equals to x. So now, if we know that the total number of items is equals to x, then we can try to represent what brand A, brand B, and brand C are in terms of x, which is the total number. So we are told that for brand A, that 1/9 of the total item in the shop are from brand A, and we have said the total number is x. So that means A represents, or brand A represents 1/9 of what? X. What about B? Told that 5/8 of the remainder are from brand B. Now, if the total is x, and what is going to be the remainder? So the remainder after we remove brand A is just going to be x, which is our total, minus A, which is 1/9x. And when we simplify this, the LCM of both here is what? 9. We can divide it 1. So this becomes what? 9x minus 1x, and that is what? 8/9x. So the remainder is 8/9x. And we are told that B is what? 5/8 of the remainder. So B is equals to what? 5/8. And what is that remainder? The remainder is what? 8/9. 8/9 of x. Now, as you can see, this 8 cancel this 8. So that means that B is what? 5/9 of x. Now, what are we told? We are told that the rest are brand C. So if the rest are brand C, we know that brand C is just going to be the total, which is x minus brand A minus brand B. That is going to give us what brand C is. So brand C is just going to be x minus, and I know that my A is what? 1/9 of x, and B is what? Minus 5/9 of x. Again, the LCM here is going to be what? 9, and this is going to be 9x minus x minus 5x, and that means C is going to be what? 9 minus x is 8x minus 5x is going to be 3x. So that's what? 3/9x, or in simpler terms, this is just going to be what? 1/3x. So we have seen that A is 1/9x, B is 5/9x, and C is 1/3x. But now we have been told that the number of items C in the man's shop is what? Is 81. So that means we have been told that 1/3, that C is equals to 81. At the same time, we know that C is 1/3, so we can write 1/3x, which is C, is the same thing as, is equals to 81. So if you cross multiply, we find that x is just going to be what? 81 times 3, and that is what? 243. So that means we found the total number x, which is 243. Now we can find what A is. A is what? 1/9 of x, and that is just going to be what? 1/9 times 243. So what is 243 divided by 9? That will be 27. And B told is what? 5/9 times x, and that is just going to be 5 over 9 times 243, and that is just going to be equals to what? 135. But what does this question says? The question is asking that how many more brand B items than brand C does the shop have? So what the question is asking us is how many more brand B than brand C. So what the question is asking us is to find what B minus C, because that is going to give us the difference between them, and that's just going to be 135. And I've been told from the question that C is what? 81 minus 81. So and 135 minus 81 is just going to be 54, and that makes option C the correct option. Moving on to the next question, we are told that two numbers are respectively 35% and 30% more than a third number. The ratios of the two numbers are, so what does this mean? We say let the third number that they're talking about, number, be equals to x. Now we're told that the first number is what? The first number is what? 35% more than this third number x. So the way we represent 35% more is by just adding 1 then, or 100% and adding 35%. So that means the first number is what? 100% plus 35%, since it's 100% more of x, and that is what? 135% of x, which is the same thing as what? To convert percent to fraction, we divide by 100. So this is just the same thing as having what? This is just the same thing as having 1.35x. So this is just having 1.35x. Now similarly, we can say that the second number, we've been told that the second number is what? Is 80% more. So in this case, it's just going to be 100 plus 80%, since it's 80% more, 80% of x, and that is what? 180% of x. Now to convert 180% to fraction, that's just going to be what? 1.80x. Now we are told to find the ratio between the two numbers. So in other words, we are told to find 1.35x ratio 1.80x. Obviously this x can cancel out this x, and we can multiply both sides by 100. This is same thing as saying 135 ratio 180, and we can divide both sides by 5. If we divide both sides by 5, that's going to give us what? That's going to give us 135 divided by 5 is 27, and 180 divided by 5 is 36, and we can divide both sides by 9 also to simplify, and that is just going to be 27 divided by 9 is 3, and 36 divided by 9 is 4, and that is going to give us 3 ratio 4, and that makes option B the correct option. So moving on to the next question, question 43. We have been told that the difference between an interior angle of n minus 1 regular polygon and exterior angle of n plus 2 sided regular polygon is 6. Then the value of n is what? So we are told to find the value of n. So we have been given a regular polygon, and we told that the difference between the exterior angle of 1 minus 1 sided polygon and the exterior angle of n plus 2 sided polygon is 6. So find the value of n. So now the first thing you need to know is that the formula for calculating the exterior angle of a regular sided polygon is what? 360 divided by n, where n is the number of sides. So now we've been told that, so that means the first regular polygon, let me call that E1, is just going to be what? 360. The number of sides that we told that it has is what? N minus 2. I'll be n minus 1 rather, which is what we have over here. So n minus 1 is the number of sides that the first regular polygon has. Then the second regular polygon has 360 divided by, in this case, the number of sides is what? N plus 2. So divided by n plus 2. But we are told that the difference between both of them is what? 6 degrees. So in other words, we are being told that what? E1 minus E2 is equals to what? 6 degrees. So now what is E1? We found that E1 is 360 divided by n minus 1 minus E2, which is 360 divided by n plus 2 is equals to 6. So the question now is asking us to find the value of n. So how do we do that? First off, we need to find the LCM of here, both of them, which is going to be what? N minus 1, n plus 2. Then multiply this divided by this, we get rid of this, then we're left with n plus 2. So this is going to be 360 into bracket n plus 2. Then minus this divided by this, we get rid of this, then we're left with n minus 1 minus 360 into bracket n minus 1. Then we are told that this is equals to 6. So what can we do again? Let's try to expand. So to x and cross multiply. So when we cross multiply, and let's try to expand what is on top. So expanding what is on top, we have 360 times n, which is going to be 360n, and 360 times 2, which is going to be what? Plus 720. Then 360 times n, that will be minus 360n. Then minus 360 times minus 1 is going to be equals to plus 360 is equals to 6 times what we have over here. So now I'm going to try to expand this also. N times n is n squared. Then n times 2 is plus 2n. Then minus n minus 2. So what does that become? Plus 360n cancel out minus 360n. I have 720 plus 360, which is 1080 is equals to 6. And this now simplifies to be what? N squared plus n minus 2. So what can we do? Let's try to divide both sides by 6 to get rid of the 6 over here. So if I divide it by 6 and I divide this by 6, so this cancels out this, and I'm left with what? 180 is equals to n squared plus n minus 2. So collecting like terms, I can bring to the other side, and I'm left with what? N squared plus n minus 2 minus 180 equals to 0. And further, that becomes n squared plus n minus 182 is equals to 0. Now what do I have to do here? I have to factorize. So I multiply the first term and the last term, and that is minus 182 n squared. And I try to figure out which two numbers can I multiply together to get minus 182 n squared. But when I sum them together, I get plus n. And those two numbers are what? Plus 14n and minus 13n. Because plus 14n times minus 13n will give me minus 182n squared, and plus 14n minus 13n will give me plus n. So I replace this value of n with these numbers that I've determined here. So this becomes n squared plus 14n minus 13n minus 182 is equals to 0. So I factorize. N is common over here, and I'm left with n plus 14. And minus 13 is common over here, and I'm left with n, and 182 divided by 13 is 14, and that becomes plus 14 because you have minus inside too, and you have minus outside. So this becomes plus because minus times plus will be minus, then is equals to 0. So this means what? The factors means this is n plus 14 and n minus 13 is equals to 0. Now this means either n plus 14 is equals to 0 or n minus 13 is equals to 0. And this means that n is either equals to minus 14 or n is equals to 13. But because we know that this is a regular polygon, and that means the number of sides cannot be negative. You cannot have a negative number of sides. It has to be a positive number. So that means the only valid option, or the valid option here, will be n is equals to 13, because that is the positive result that we got. And that means option B is the correct option. If you have any question, please make sure to drop them in the comments, and I'll do them to address it as quickly as I can. Moving on to the next, we are told to evaluate this expression. So let me write down the out over here. 8 minus 5, or 5 divided by 8 rather, minus 3 over 4 divided by 5 over 12 times 1 over 4. Now remember, to change this divide to times, I just need to flip this upside down. So what does that become? That becomes a divided by 5 minus 3 over 4. Then to change divide 2 times, that I just flip the number that is after that. So this becomes times 12 over 5 times 1 over 4. Now, if you remember from our laws of order operation, PEMDAS, it says that what? Multiplication and division comes before addition and subtraction. So that means I have to multiply before I can add, because multiplication comes first, or it's the same thing as your board mass. If you are more familiar with that, board mass, as you can see, multiplication comes before addition. So you have to multiply. That means we have to multiply all these numbers together before we take them away from this, which is 5 over 8. My bad. So to multiply this together, let's try to see how well we can simplify. So this becomes what? 4 here 1, 4 here is 3, and we can try, this becomes 5 over 8 minus 3 times 3 is 9, and 5 times 4 is what? 20. So now we can subtract. So the LCM of 8 and 20 is going to be 40, and 40 divided by 8 is 5. 5 times 5 is going to give me 25, minus 40 divided by 20 is 2. 2 times 9 will give me 18, and 25 minus 18 is going to give me 7 over 14. So when you simplify that, the final result is 7 over 40, and that makes C the correct option. Now, if you want a more explanation on how to simplify order of operation, I've included a link to the tutorial video in the description below. And if you have any further question, please do well to drop it in the comment section. Moving on to the next, we are told that if minus 2x cubed plus 6x squared plus 17x minus 21 is divided by x minus 1, then the remainder is, now if you remember from our remainder theorem, if you assume that this is a factor, like x minus 1 is a factor, x plus 1 rather is a factor, they say if you divide this number by this, that what is the remainder? From our remainder theorem, the way we do find the remainder is just by giving the divisor, the number we're dividing by, x plus 1, and we equate that to 0, and that means x is equals to what? Minus 1. So what do? We substitute the value of x as minus 1 into this expression here, and whatever value we get is the remainder. That is the remainder theorem. And if you want more clarification, check out my tutorial video, which I put the link in the description. So we have this expression, or the number that we're dividing by 2x cubed plus 6x squared plus 17x minus 21. So we just substitute the value of x as minus 1. So this becomes minus 2 into brackets minus 1 cubed plus 6 into brackets minus 1 squared plus 17 into brackets minus 1, then minus 21. So minus 1 cube is minus 1. So I have minus 2 times minus 1 plus 6. Minus 1 squared is minus 1 times minus 1, which is plus 1. And this becomes 17 times minus 1, and this becomes minus 21. So what does this become? Minus 2 times minus 1 will be 2, because minus times minus is plus. 6 times 1 will be 6. 17 times minus 1 will be minus 17, because plus times minus is minus, and minus 21. So 2 plus 6 minus 17 minus 21 is going to be minus 30, and that makes option C the correct option. So to recap, to find the remainder when you divide, you equate number that are dividing by to 0 and find what the value of x is. Then you substitute that value in the expression, and whatever result you get is the remainder. And this procedure is defined by what we call the remainder theorem. And as I mentioned before, you can find the link to the tutorial video in the description below, so you can explore that if you like to have a deeper understanding. So moving on to question 46, we are told to factorize this strange looking expression over here. Now this might look complicated, but if you remember, this is just an variation of difference of 2 squared, and I will show you how. Now from our difference of 2 squared, remember, if you have a squared minus b squared is the same thing as saying what? A minus b times a plus b, right? Now we're going to apply that same concept here. Now, how do we write this in terms of squared? So if we think about 16 is the same thing as writing 4 squared. Now x to the power of 4 is the same thing as writing x squared squared, because x squared squared is going to be what? X raised to the power 4. And similarly, y raised to the power 4 is the same thing as writing y squared squared. So now this becomes what? We can combine this together. So it's the same thing as saying 4x squared, taking out this square together squared, then minus y squared squared. So now what we have now is similar to what we have here, difference of 2 squared, but in this case our a is what? 4x squared, and our b is y squared. So we just expand it using what we have here. So this becomes a, our a in this case is what? 4x squared, minus b, our b in this case y is y squared, then times what is our a again? 4x squared, and what is our b? Plus y squared. Now interesting, right? But if you look at this again, this is another difference of 2 squared, because we have a squared and a squared. So again, we think about how can we write this as a squared also. So remember, 4x squared can be written as, so again this can be written as 4 squared can be written as 2 squared times s squared, right, minus y squared. I'm going to leave this 4x squared plus y squared. Now I can combine this also again. So because they are both squared, I can combine their base together. So this becomes what? 2x squared minus y squared, all in this big bracket, then times what? 4x squared plus y squared. Now again, we can assume that 2x will be my a and y will be my b. So simplifying that just becomes 2x minus y using my difference of 2 squared, and what? 2x plus y. That is what this becomes, and we just multiply by what we have already there, which is 4x squared plus y squared. And what does that mean? That makes option A the correct option. Again, this is a classic example of difference of 2 squared. For any further question, please drop that in the comment, and I'll do well to respond to you as soon as I can. So moving on to question 47, we are told to evaluate the limit of this function as x tends to 2. Now the way you would approach limit normally is by trying to substitute the value of 2. But if you look at this, if you substitute the value of 2 in the denominator, for example, in the denominator, let's look at the denominator alone. You're going to have 2 squared minus 2 times 2. And in the denominator, you're going to have 4 minus 4. And that means you're going to have in the denominator, you're going to have what? 0. Now, if you recall, you cannot divide by 0, because when you divide by 0, that is undefined. So that means we cannot substitute the value of 2 directly into this expression, because we're going to have a denominator by 0. So what do we do instead? Instead, what we'll try to do is to try to simplify by factorizing. So let's start by factorizing the numerator. So in the numerator, which we have 2x plus 4x minus 12. Let's try factorizing that. So this is like a quadratic equation. Multiply the first and the last term. We have minus 12x squared. Ask ourselves, what two numbers can I multiply together to get minus 12x squared? But when I sum them, I get 4x. And that is just going to be what? That is going to be plus 6x and minus 2x. Because plus 6x times minus 2x is going to give me minus 12x squared. And 6x minus 2x is going to give me 4x. So I replace this 4x with what we have here. So this becomes x squared plus 6x minus 2x minus 12. And what does this become? This becomes what? X is common here into bracket x plus 6, and minus 2 is common here into bracket x plus 6, and we have a plus here because plus 2 times minus 2 rather times plus 6 will give me minus 12. So when we factor out the minus, that changes to a plus. So this becomes what? X minus 2 and x plus 6. Now, what about the denominator? How do we factor the denominator? In the denominator, we have x squared minus 2x. So we can just see that x is common here. So when you factor out x, you just left it with x minus 2. So now we can rewrite our question in terms of their factors. So we can now write that this is something as finding limit as x tends to power 2. In our numerator now, we now have what? X minus 2, x plus 6, which is same thing as what we had. Then divided by what? X into bracket x minus 2. But if you look carefully now, this x minus 2 can cancel this x minus 2. So now we're left with the limit of what? X plus 6 over x as x tends to 2. Now we can substitute the value of 2 in here, because when we substitute the value of 2 in the denominator, we do not get 0 in the denominator. So this is all fine. So this becomes x becomes 2 plus 6 over 2. And that is what? 8 over 2. And that is equals to what? 4. So the limit of this function as x tends to 2 is what? Is 4. And that makes A the correct option. Now, if you want further clarity, please do well to check out my tutorial video on limit. Now, there are different approaches in which you could have solved this. Could have also made use of differentiating the numerator and denominator before substituting the value of x as 2. But I follow this approach because it does not require you to understand differentiation. But if you want to understand different approaches of addressing the question of limits, then I encourage you to watch my tutorial video on that, which is in the description below. And if you have any question, as always, drop them in the comments. So number 48, we are told that the interior angle of a regular polygon, so the interior angle I is what? Is 5 times the exterior angle. Now we are told to identify the polygon. Now, what do we know? We know that the formula, we know that the relationship, which is something that you should know for your exam, between the interior and the exterior angle of a polygon. So we know that the interior angle is equals to 180 degrees minus the exterior angle. Like, this is known. But we are already told now that the interior angle again is 5 times of the exterior angle. So we can substitute the value of I as 5e to find what the exterior angle is. So this becomes 5e is equals to 180 minus e. So e can come over here. So we have 5e plus e is equals to 180. And this becomes 6e is equals to 180. And if I divide both sides by 6, E, or the exterior angle, is equals to what? 30 degrees. Now, if you recall from the question that we solved, I think that was question 43. I told you that the exterior angle of a polygon is also equals to what? 360 divided by the number of sides. Now, we found the exterior angle to be equals to 30, so we can substitute that here. So we have 30 is equals to 360 divided by n. Now we can cross multiply. So we have 30n is equals to 360. 0 cancels out 0. And if we divide both sides by 3, we have 3 cancels out 3. And we have n is equals to 36 divided by 3 is 12. So we are dealing with the 12-sided polygon. And the 12-sided polygon is called a dodecagon. And that makes option A the correct option. So moving on to question 49, we are told that Bello buys an old bicycle for 9,200 and spends 1,500 on its repair. If he then sells the bike for 13,400, what is his percent gain? Now, we know that the percent gain is equals to what? Equals to the selling price minus the cost price divided by the cost price times 100. Now, we already know the selling price. The selling price is was 13,400, which is the amount he sold it for. But what is his cost price? Now the mistake that some students will make here is just making the cost price to be 9,200 because he bought it for 9,200. But you have to consider that after he bought the bike, he had to also do some repairs on the bike which cost him 1,500. So the amount of money that he spent on getting the bicycle ready before he could sell it is going to be worth 9,200 plus the repair cost, and that is going to be total cost price, or in other words the amount that it cost him to get the bike ready for sale. 9,200 plus 1,500 is 10,700. So we know the cost price is 10,700, and we now know that he sold it for what? 13,400. So obviously we can now substitute that into our formula. So our percentage gain becomes our selling price, which is 13,400, minus our cost price, which is 10,700, divided by our cost price, which is 10,700, then multiply that by 100%, and this becomes what? 2,700 divided by 10,700 times 100. So 0 cancels out this 0, and this is the same thing as having 2,700 divided by 107. And when you punch that in your calculator, you're going to get what? 15.447. You're going to get rather 25, my bad, 25.23%. You can confirm that 2,700 divided by 107 in your calculator. Yeah, 2.23%, and that makes option A the correct option. So moving on to the last question for part 5, we are told that the population of a village decreased from 1,230. So this was the population, then it dropped to 1040 because of an epidemic. Now what is the percentage decrease in population? So the percentage decrease is just equals to the original or the old in this case minus the new divided by the original times 100. So what is the original, or what was the population before? 1230. What is the new population now? 1040, because it had decreased to 1040. And what was the original? 1230 times 100, and that is the percentage decrease. So 1230 minus 1040 is going to be what? 190 divided by 1230 times 100. This 0 cancels out this 0, and I left it 1900 divided by 123. And when you punch this in your calculator, you're going to get what? You're going to get 15.447. So to 2 decimal place, that is just going to be what? 15.45%, and that makes option D the correct option. And now that brings us to the end of part 5 for our JAMB Mathematics Past Question for 2023. As always, if you have any question, please drop them in the comment and I'll do it to respond to them. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please make sure to do so, and also give this video a big thumbs up if you find it useful. Bye for now, and I'm going to see you in the final part.